Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today. Hi, Tamara.
Hi.
I hear we're with D.S. McColgan, author, and she has a big day today. She has a new release. Is this the release of the third book in the series?
It is, yes, yeah.
Okay,
So the
so
book is releasing today.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. D.S. McColgan has a series. It's a fantasy series, a tale of series, and the first book is A Tale of Something New, correct?
Yeah.
And then A Tale of Something Red, and then the book that's releasing today is A Tale of Something Borrowed.
Yes.
Can you tell us? Okay, and I looked it up a little bit. It says a gaslight fantasy. Tell me what that means.
Oh, Gaslamp is like, it's aimed at the time period. So as opposed to urban fantasy, where often it's really a modern time, or medieval fantasy, Gaslamp is sort of around 1800, like when it's starting to, you have gas lamps and there's some technology available. So it's not like you're still lighting only candles or only horse carts, but it's not really modern either. So
Okay, good. And maybe in my head, I converted to gaslighting because of the psychological gaslight.
maybe.
Maybe I converted that. So not the same thing. The period
No,
of
no, no.
time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. Well, tell me how this series started.
Um, I mean, I came up with this story a long time ago. I was writing in some forums. Oh, this is gonna tell you how old I am. But they used to have these like role play forums where you would have a thread and you could just write what your character's doing and someone else would respond to it with their character. And this was basically the story of her parents, her origin story, if you like. And I on a day on holiday with my sisters, we had nothing to do. We were sitting around the house, and I just decided to tell this. Oh, hi, cat. And yeah, I just decided to tell the story. I started in the morning, and I just was talking all day long. And by the end of the day, I said the end. and and I just had the story at the back of my head for a long time. And then about 10 years later, when I had my daughter, I decided I wanted to actually write it down.
Well, neat. So tell us a little bit about the premise and the characters.
Yes. So in the first book, Liliana she's 22, but she's a bit of a, even though she's growing up on a farm, she is leading a little bit of a sheltered life in the way that she's in this cozy community where people are very supportive, and she's a bit naive, her a little bit spoiled in the way that her dad tries to not give her like all of the hard work, and her brothers do that. Um, and one day she goes in the forest. She's just looking for like some kindling, like firewood, and looking for resin and some of the herbs that grow in winter for her grandma. And she finds a trail of blood in the forest, in the snow, and follows it, and then stumbles on this sort of a bit brutal scene. It looks like there was a terrible fight there, and then in the middle of it, there's this guy that she's never seen before, and he's very badly injured. And she decides to drag him all the way through the forest back home to try and nurse him back to health. And then the mystery part of the story really is who is this guy? Where did he come from? What happened to him? But of course, when he wakes up, he doesn't remember. So they have to try and figure out what could have been going on there. And that is really the fantasy element, the sort of supernatural element that comes in there.
And Are you going to tell us what the supernatural element is, or does that give too much away?
I mean, if you read sort of the blurbs look at on my social media and look at the blurbs of the later books, you will know. It's
Oh,
a very
okay, but
specific
that might ruin it for us, so we won't do that. I'm not the type of person who reads the last page first. So.
Yeah, so I try not to spoil it in case people do want to guess, but if you want to find out, it's really not hard.
Okay. So where does the series go from there?
So, ooh, again, trying to do that without spoiling it. But basically, well, of course, the stranger is handsome and very intelligent and knows so much about the world. And Liliana has this. So her mother used to be, it comes from the city, and her grandfather really is a trader. And in the world where they live, they have specific territories, and they're not allowed to leave these territories and cross borders unless they have a trading permission. And so her mother died when she gave birth to her younger brother. And so Liliana sort of has this longing for seeing more of the world and maybe experiencing a little bit of what her mother's life might have been like before they settled in this village. And so when the stranger comes, everything her normal life is disrupted a little bit, and she feels like this is my chance. He's a little bit my ticket possibly out to go out and see the world, because whoever he is, he must be an interesting person that knows a lot about the world, maybe nicely and nice rich. And so she's quite grows attached to him pretty quickly. And then later on, when sort of everything, her world falls apart and nothing goes to plan anymore, she finds out who he really is. She will eventually have to leave her village, but not because of what she dreamt of, which is, he's gonna show me the world, but because of circumstances and the danger that she's in, and also that she might bring to her family and her community. So the local priest tells her, you are gonna have to leave, basically, the village to try and avert this danger. And then throughout the series, she will get to see these different places, the different territories, and the secret rulers of these places. And so it is a journey for her where it's fun. My friend made maps for my books. She's very talented at drawing, and she made a little map of just the village and the surroundings for the first book, and then it just kind of zooms out with every book. You get to see more of the world, and Liliana also gets to experience more of really what's happening out there.
Oh, that sounds so neat. I love maps. And so this world you created, it sounds like it has either a magic system or something, secret rulers going on with that. Is it really based on our world, or are there very different supernatural, fantastical laws and powers out there?
There's basically two opposing powers at work. I call them light and darkness. They are more specifically, attached to people and a curse and light powers, but very basically it's just light and darkness. And the world, I've based it loosely on Europe around 1800, more specifically Switzerland and southern Germany, as well as the United Kingdom to some extent. So I was trying to create this fairy tale feeling of what life would have been like around 1800, but it's not very accurate because, well, sometimes you take things just because they're cool and you add them in, and some of the things, obviously, because of this secret, the way that they're secretly ruled, they they don't want for certain things to happen. And so obviously they happened in our world, but they don't. I think I can say that without spoiling too much. Weapons, for example, they don't want people to have weapons. And so whereas around 1800, there would have been gunpowder around and that sort of thing, that doesn't exist in this world, for example.
Okay, interesting. Where do you see the series going? Is it going to, like, do you find new challenges for the character in each book, or are you fighting is she fighting one villain?
It kind of changes. So the original story was book 1 and book 2 together, and then by the end of book 2, I realized, I don't think it can end like this, and so I added book 3, and there will be a book 4 as well. So it's those 4 books I have already written. Basically, they still need to be edited, book 4, but that's where it's going. There is a new, so book 1 and 2 sort of have the same villain. He's not really all that present at first, but then by trying to defeat that villain, they introduce a new villain into the story. So yes, and then book 4 has a third villain. So
Interesting, fun.
This
Go
is
ahead.
actually interesting because book 3, so this third book that came out today, I wrote 2 alternative books from different viewpoints. So one of them is actually the villain point of view.
Oh. And so are you releasing them both at the same time so you could read each one?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This also is a bit of a funny story, but I have German test readers and I have English test readers, which, to be fair, mostly like my family. But I have some German test readers that I found on Instagram, and they're awesome. And I originally wrote it from just the villain's perspective because I've always wanted, I don't know if you've ever done that, but I always wanted to try and see what it would be like. And they didn't like it. They said they felt the villain is too aggressive and a bit annoying, and they missed all the characters that I had learned to love from the first 2 books. And so I decided, this isn't working, and I just wrote a completely new book, same story, but completely new book from a different perspective, this time from the love interest's perspective. And I did that over the summer, thinking, oh yeah, I can quickly just write a book while my daughter's home from school, and life happens, and it was just mad. Everyone was going crazy, but I managed to finish it by the end. And then I gave the books to my English test readers, and they said, oh, we love the villain, she is so cool. And then I was like, well, what do I do now? So I released both books in both languages, and people can pick who they want to follow.
Oh, fun. So it's not in the same book. You'd have to buy them as 2 different books.
Yes, they are 2 different books, but you don't have to read them both to be able to understand the plot of book 4. The last 5 chapters are actually exactly the same because I wanted everyone to be able to follow book 4, even, so it doesn't matter which one you're going to pick.
Right. So do they have a different title? Does it, can you tell which one? Huh?
Yeah, the subtitle is different. So
the subtitle, okay.
I mean, it looks almost the same. I didn't actually put the subtitle on there, but it's both. It's A Tale of Something Borrowed, and then the love interest perspective has the subtitle The Third Path, and then the villain one, where she's at the bottom, is A Tale of Something Borrowed, and then The Path of Resistance.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I saw them on Goodreads and I was like, okay, there's 4 of these, and it made sense why the German languages, but I didn't dig into why there was 2 American languages. So that's good to know now. But that's very cool. Like, I felt like Stephanie Meyer did well. Edward wasn't the villain, but she rewrote Twilight from Edward's perspective, which when I originally read it, I thought it was really cool, and then the whole long version came out, and I got a little bored. But writing from a villain's perspective, that would be neat to read both from both sides.
Yeah, I mean, it was really fun for me to write, and I'd like to think I believe it's also fun to read, um, especially if you can see what they're doing behind the scenes to like try and trick each other, sort of thing. And yeah, but if anyone's interested in reading both, I recommend reading the villain perspective first because that was the one I wrote first, and um, that's yeah. If you read his version first, it might spoil some of the things that happen.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Thank you for that tip. And did you make your villain a little bit likable? Like, is he or she morally gray? Did you try to have the reader bond with them at all, or are they just completely evil?
Um, they have so she does have a set of moral rules. They just don't match probably our rules as readers, and they don't match, the main character's rules. But it's not like she's not just evil for the sake of it, right? She fights on her side of this, of what she perceives to still be a war, and she wants to, yeah, she wants them to win and to be the stronger party, and that's kind of understandable, but because of the dark powers that she has, she does it in an evil way.
Yeah, I have been thinking about writing my villain story, and I've written like her genesis, like when who her parents were, and when she was born, and a small child, and like one thing that happens. But I haven't written like her growing up and her adulthood, and because I just need to flesh it out in my brain, like how. I mean, she's really evil when we see her doing the evil things to our heroes, but how likable can you make them, right?
But I mean, I think if you give it to test readers, they will tell you. So obviously, my German test readers found her not very likable, but my English test readers did. They did connect with her, and I think the reason why they liked her is because she's more of a go-getter. She has a goal, and she's like, this is what I'm doing, and she'll just do it, and she'll waltz all over everyone else if they don't agree with it. And I think that's enjoyable to some extent, because we like active characters.
Yeah, but that's so interesting. It was so the German versus the English viewpoint. I mean, how many viewpoints was this? Two or three or five or 10?
Oh, not like how many test readers? I had about 5 German test readers, and one of them didn't even finish the book, and 2 of them finished it, but they just said, I enjoyed the other 2 better because I'm the kind of writer, if because I write third person close, um, I want it to really sort of work out the character voice in it. So the tone changes because now we're following the villain, and she's sort of, she doesn't pay attention to the same kind of things. She doesn't maybe describe places in a nice way. She doesn't like, she's more curt. And so the tone of the book does change quite a bit. And so I can understand that if they really enjoyed the first 2 books for the main character and for sort of her way of interacting with people, that they might not enjoy the villain. But my English test readers only 2, 3. I only had 3, and 2 of them really enjoyed it, and the third one was neutral.
Interesting. I think we talked a little bit about how the story came about. And are you going to go back and write her parents' story, or are you going to have a prequel to the series?
Oh no, it's actually the other way around. So this is her parents' story now.
Oh, okay.
And if I were like, I'm not planning on it, but if I ever were to go back to this series, I would write the daughter, her story.
Oh, okay. I get it. Neat. Interesting. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Did you grow up reading lots of fantasy? Who are your favorite authors?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Michael Ende is, I think, pretty well known. I loved his stories as a child. Um, Also, I was a teenager by then. It's not really a kid's book, but obviously The Lord of the Rings was one of the big things that influenced me. And my dad he would take us hiking, hiking in the mountains, and he would just, to entertain us and to keep us walking, he would just tell us about the stories that he was reading. He
Oh,
was reading
neat.
a lot of thrillers, and we got all the watered down version of that. But he was also reading fantasy, and we would start to make up our own stories.
Interesting. How did you decide to set the age of the characters? Was that ever a question for you, or you just knew that's sort of the age you wanted them to be?
Um, with the main character, I wanted her to be a young adult. Like I knew I was writing for adults with maybe themes that are more interesting to adults, really. Um, but still young enough to be reasonably naive and maybe a bit self-involved and a bit dreamy.
Those are all fun times. Yes, I can remember that. I get that way sometimes now, even.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a bit dreamy, and I still am.
I think most writers probably are, right?
That's true. That's true. So yes, she also likes books, of course. The main, both actually, the love interest and the main character.
Yeah, I've been reading lots of books about people who like books, and I'm thinking, well, if you're reading a book, it's an easy way to go because you already have a book lover, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's just a bonus for the book lover.
And I like reading about people who like books because, I like books, and there we go.
Yes, I do too. So yeah, but I was thinking about that last time I was reading one. So not as much in fantasy though. I read a lot of romance that's like that. So that's kind of an interesting thing.
Or like book about actually bookshops, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. Tell everyone where we can find your books.
It's the book 1 and 2 are currently on Kindle Unlimited, so you can only get them on Amazon. But book 3 is on Amazon and also on my own. I have my own personal website, and I think I will eventually move them so they're more broadly available, because being able to sell from your own website is pretty cool. So they will move eventually, but book 3 for now is my website and Amazon, and the other 2 currently only on Amazon.
Okay. And what is your website so we can go there?
It's www.ataleofbooks.com.
Okay, A Tale of Books, which is the name of your series, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait till the next book comes out. I'll have to have you back. And again, congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for talking to me.
Of course. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.